So I just turned 29 back in December, which means I'm going to be turning 30 this year, and it naturally makes me look back at my life and wonder what life would look like had I done things a little bit differently. So in this video, I want to share some of those things with all of you that I wish I'd knew or I wish I'd figured out sooner when I was a teenager, or maybe at the very latest when I was in my early 20s. If you're new here, my name's Ben Richardson. I'm a personal trainer, a certified nutrition coach, and a chemical engineer. And for years, I suffered from low testosterone levels from being fat and overweight. And it wasn't until I went through a pretty nasty breakup in college that I finally started to really get a grip on my life. So I'm here to share what I've learned along the way with other men so that they can improve their health and increase their testosterone naturally, just like I did. And I do post videos pretty similar to this one every single week, so make sure you go ahead and subscribe so that you're not missing out. All right, let's dive in. So I want to start off by saying that in all honesty, I'm pretty happy with the way that my life has played out. If I died tomorrow, I'd still be proud to say that I've lived a good life. I got my chemical engineering degree, I've worked at some great companies solving some really interesting engineering challenges, I've made a lot of great friends and served in churches, I've helped dozens of clients hone in their fitness and their nutrition habits, which can literally change a person's life. It changed mine, and that's why I became a fitness coach myself. But looking back, there are things I'd wish I'd done differently, but I really don't have any regrets. Which is kind of the first thing that I want to talk about here is self-acceptance. So to some degree, self-acceptance is an extremely powerful thing. Taking ownership of your life and your choices is so powerful, and unfortunately, I didn't learn that until I was in my early 20s. And I'd wish I'd known that as a teenager or even earlier. So, you know, in my little spiel in my intro, I'm all like, it wasn't until I went through a pretty nasty breakup in college that I started to get a grip on my life. That's what I'm talking about here. I say that at the beginning of most of my videos so that when people who are new to my channel, they can get a little snippet of what made me start making content on YouTube in the first place. But this breakup changed my life because it was pretty brutal. I was so invested in this relationship, which was extremely toxic and manipulative, and truth be told, walking away was pretty difficult because of how deep this girl had her claws sunk into me. Now, before we go any further, I hold nothing against this girl that I dated. That would actually contradict this whole idea of taking ownership and self-acceptance. So with that being said, I hope she's doing well, and I hold no bitterness against her at all. If I saw her out and about, I'd probably say hi to her. Not sure if she'd welcome it or not, but I would at least be friendly. And that's because I took on all responsibility for everything that happened. That's right, I looked back at the entire relationship and said to myself, everything bad in my life that happened because of that relationship was and is my own dang fault. Sorry to whip out the harsh language in front of all you youngsters, but that's how serious I am here. And I mean, maybe you're not a youngster either. This is good stuff for really anyone. It doesn't really matter how old or young you are. It's so important to realize that you have control over your thoughts, your words, your choices, and those are going to change the way that your life plays out. So I took responsibility for all of it, even though in hindsight it was probably 50% my fault and 50% her fault. I didn't care. I took ownership of the fact that I chose to stay in that relationship for an entire year. I chose to turn my back on some of my family and my friends to be with this girl, and quite frankly, I made stupid decisions with my time during this relationship. It's actually a miracle that I made it through chemical engineering school, because that's when all of this was going down. And I'm dead serious. I look back and I genuinely believe that I would not have made it through chemical engineering school had it not been for God's grace. And speaking of God's grace, there are so many things that could have gone wrong because of this relationship, but the Lord spared me of those things, and I'm very grateful. So I literally thank God because of it, because things could have gone real south real quick. And just to be clear, I don't mean sweet home Alabama kind of south. I just mean poop could have hit the fan and things could have gotten really messy. But once I just took responsibility for everything that happened, that's when I finally felt like I was free and at peace with the situation. Because it was around that same time that I started working out and lifting weights. I started dieting and losing weight. I started going to bed at a decent hour. I started going to church and spending time with the Lord again. And I even made the dean's list in my last semester of college while I was doing all these things. And all those wins made me realize that I have more control over my decisions than I realized. I could have cried about it and said that I was just a victim of circumstance in that whole situation. I could have blamed everything bad that happened in my life on her, but it just got me nowhere. Having bitterness lingering inside of you eats away at your soul. I also drank a lot when I was in this relationship, and heavy and regular alcohol consumption is never the hallmark of a good and healthy relationship. Alcohol changes the way you think, speak, and respond to the environment around you, because I would say and do things when I'd drink a lot of alcohol that I would never say and do if I were sober. And I hear a lot of people say, oh, well, drunk words are sober thoughts, and maybe to some extent that might be a little bit true, but why on earth do you think people drink in the first place? So that they can get that boost in confidence that alcohol gives them to say and do things that they wouldn't do if they were sober. Guys drink at bars so that they can experience that social jolt to go talk to that pretty girl. People in general drink so that they can feel more comfortable socializing and going out. In fact, my New Year's challenge for myself this year has been to cut out alcohol for at least 3 months. And I gotta say, I don't really miss it a ton ever since I stopped drinking. We live in a world that's obsessed with alcohol. People go to sports games and drink. They go to concerts and drink. They go to movies and drink. They go out to dinner and drink. They go on first dates and drink. I'm sure I could go on, but you get the point. In 2023, I went through a pretty big podcast kick. I was working at this battery development company, and I spent a lot of time in the lab, and I'd just put on my AirPods while I'd work and listen to a lot of podcasts because I was able to work pretty independently, so it was kind of nice. And I listened to Andrew Huberman's notorious podcast episode on alcohol consumption, and that's where my eyes were open to the kind of effects that alcohol can have on you over the course of several years, or even if you just casually drink on weekends. I fell right into the category, and some of the symptoms that he described were almost exactly what I was experiencing. He'd go on to say how people who drink regularly have a hard time optimizing their sleep, and he may not have said these words exactly like this, but this is my summary of what he had to say about how alcohol can impact your sober decision and habits. He essentially said that long-term drinking can cause a tendency to self-sabotage, and that really made me think long and hard about why I haven't achieved some kind of elite level of leanness, which feels like it's been one of my goals for quite some time now. If you've ever drank alcohol at any point, you know that those munchies kick in, and at some point you start to get hungry after you've had a few. Well, combine that with having a ravenous appetite of a Viking like me, where you can devour an entire pizza in one sitting, and you can imagine how difficult it would be to lean down easily. And most people drink too much when they go out. Not all people, but most people. They think of themselves as social drinkers or social weekend drinkers, but they'll go out on a Friday or a Saturday, and they'll throw back like 6+ drinks in a night. It's no longer casual consumption at that point. And it might not seem like that big of a deal because it's just 1 or 2 nights out of the week. But little do people realize that drinking 6+ drinks on top of caving into all those food munchies that coincide with drinking, that can easily undo, if not completely reverse, an entire week of disciplined eating. So keep that in the back of your mind if you drink alcohol. Your body does treat it like a toxin, and if you are a young person watching this, I'd encourage you to capitalize on your youth. Work hard and build skills that will make you money. That doesn't mean that you can't have fun, and that doesn't mean that you can't live an adventurous life, but just realize that you don't necessarily need alcohol to have fun or build great memories. Something else that I wish I knew is that nutrition plays a key role in your overall health. Seems pretty obvious, but people are so uneducated about nutrition. We all know that nutrition is important, but everyone seems to have a different opinion about nutrition, which is super unfortunate because thanks to the internet, everyone thinks that they're an expert these days. So I'm gonna make nutrition really, really simple for you. And looking back at all the frustration and headaches I had to push through to learn this about nutrition, I gladly would have paid someone good money to tell me this to save me a lot of wasted time and effort. But nutrition boils down to calories and macronutrients. That's it. Obviously, there's more going on, I do recognize that, but if you want to master your nutrition once and for all for the rest of your life, you must master calorie and macronutrient tracking. Let me tell you a little story about myself when I was a teenager real quick. So one summer I decided that I was going to do P90X because I wanted to get absolutely shredded. And P90X seemed like a good route to go because it was a pretty intense program. You'd either lift weights or do some kind of cardio workout every single day. And I followed the program almost perfectly for the entire summer. I may have missed like one or maybe two at most total workouts, but I was almost flawless with my workout routine. I did the yoga, I did the strength training workouts, I did the plyometrics, I did the ab workouts, because I was so determined to finally get the body that I wanted. And even though I got in really great shape by the end of it, I didn't get the body that I wanted. I wasn't shredded and I didn't really lose a substantial amount of weight. And that's because there was one thing that I paid absolutely no attention to, and that was my nutrition. And that's how powerful nutrition is. If you don't nail your nutrition, you can work out all you want and get almost nowhere. And the secret to this is to master your calorie and macronutrient tracking. And I'm just going to be blunt with you here only because I spent so many years struggling with my weight before I finally figured this out. But if you disagree with this, you are just plain wrong. If you don't think that calories and macronutrients matter, you are just wrong. Your understanding of nutrition is wrong, and you will never achieve your goals unless you accept this fact about the thermodynamics of your body. And you can get mad at me for this all you want. I don't create the laws that govern the universe, but it always boils down to calories and macronutrients. So might as well swallow the hard pill now and get to work on getting good at this. If you want to lose fat and build muscle, which is what 99.99% of all people with any kind of fitness goals want to do, then you must learn how to manage your calories and macronutrients. You also have to know what your maintenance calories are, which you can estimate using some kind of online maintenance calorie calculator, and most of them are relatively accurate. They might be off by 100 or 200 calories, but it won't make that huge of a difference if you're just in the ballpark, because you'll probably never be able to be that exact and precise with calories. But the point is that you need to measure your calorie and your macronutrient intake. What gets measured gets managed. That's all you need to know about nutrition before you start doing all this digging into advanced nutrition tactics, like what foods you should be eating or what foods you need to eliminate from your diet. If you master tracking the foods that you eat, you can get 95% of the way there. And all the rest is optimization. Now, don't get me wrong, what foods you eat is important. If you want to learn more about that, you can check out my entire playlist I made on testosterone boosting foods. But you need to build that understanding on a strong foundation first. How much food you eat should take much higher priority over what food you eat. And by how much, I mean how many calories you consume. That is fundamental, and the sooner that you get good at managing your calories and your macronutrients, the sooner you'll reach your goals. I wish I'd known that when I was a teenager, because I lifted weights, I worked out, and I played sports when I was in high school and well into college. But I was never able to build the body that I wanted because I lacked a fundamental understanding of nutrition. And by no means am I perfect now, but I'm way better now than I ever have been in my entire life. Alright, the last thing I want to talk about that turned out to work in my favor, that not a lot of people seem to understand, is to make your life decisions while you're young that are aligned with what's going to help you make decent money. So I studied chemical engineering in college. I'm not gonna lie, it was not fun. It was hard getting my engineering degree, but I'm glad I did. I'm glad I decided to push through it, and I'm glad I finished it because it has allowed me to work high-paying jobs that I wouldn't have been able to work if I'd chosen a degree that's less in demand. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of other degrees out there that can land you really good jobs, but working in some kind of STEM field is going to open up higher paying jobs for you if you push through the hard work of getting some kind of STEM degree. Suffer now to get rewarded later. And I'm just going to tell you this right now. If you don't think that you can get a STEM degree, you can. I am by no means a naturally smart person. I just worked hard. I read my textbooks, I went to office hours, I studied in the library, I discussed class concepts with people to better understand things. I did whatever it took to get my degree. So if you're sitting there thinking that you're not smart enough or that it's not for you because you don't have good grades, that is a load of crap. You can do it just like I did. I certainly didn't get straight A's in engineering school either. Quite the opposite. I actually got C's in most of my classes because they were so freaking hard. But I pushed through and I busted my butt to get my degree. You can do it too. And you can choose a field that's a little bit more aligned with your strengths and interests. If you like computers, you'd probably do good in computer science or some kind of information technology. If you like math, you can probably do well in any engineering field or just become a math major. Maybe you enjoyed a particular topic in science in high school. That's how I chose chemical engineering. I was good at chemistry and I liked it, so I went the engineering route because I knew that I could make good money with just a bachelor's degree in engineering. But most advisors are going to sit and tell you that you want to do what you like or do what you're passionate about, do what your heart tells you, some bullcrap that doesn't steer you in the right direction of making your degree decision with the intent of making good money someday. It's okay to do that. I was going to study pure chemistry, but I knew I'd make better money and have more opportunities with an engineering degree. I was probably more passionate about pure chemistry, but I was going to college to get a good job someday. And that's exactly what I did. And by the way, the same idea applies here even if you decide not to go to college. If you want to do a trade, pick one where you could see yourself moving up and getting promoted. If you want to be a plumber, ask yourself if you could see yourself being an owner someday. If you want to go into construction, do whatever it takes to get promoted into some kind of construction manager position. With trades, you just want to make sure that your future looks bright. You almost want to treat your first few years in a trade as spending a few years in college. You're learning the ropes so that you can become a leader in the industry. You want to think about how you can set yourself up to work hard up front to benefit financially in the future. And you're not necessarily going to get that if, let's say, you're passionate about music and you want to study music in college, or you're passionate about politics and you want to study political science in college. Those are just a couple examples, but in general, you're not going to exit college with a bachelor's degree in a field like that making a decent salary. Money isn't everything, but if you're going to put in the work to get a degree or learn a trade, you might as well bust your butt so that you can set yourself up for a good and secure future. I can't even tell you how often I hear young kids and teens talking about how they want to go to a 4-year college that's out of state and get some stupid degree that isn't going to help them land some kind of high-paying job someday. What you're passionate about can be a side gig or something that you just do outside of your job or business. So study something that will pay you well, whether it's a college major or some kind of trade, and don't just follow your heart. That's just a dumb dream that universities especially want to sell you because they benefit the most from it. So choose wisely. But anyway, there you have it. These are a handful of things that I wish I knew back when I was a teenager. This was a pretty different video from most of the other videos that I usually make. But like I said at the beginning, I'm here to share what I have learned along my journey to help other men out. Usually it involves something fitness or nutrition related, but if it weren't for fitness and nutrition, I never would have started on my path to growing personally, and I wanted to shed some light on this area of my life in a way that hopefully helped out a lot of younger fellas who might be battling with some of these hardships entering adulthood. But anyways, if you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps me out a ton. And again, if you're new here and you've made it this far, go ahead and subscribe and turn the notification bells on too so that you're not missing out on any of my latest content. This generation of men have much lower testosterone levels than previous ones from things like poor diets, bad exercising habits, and increased exposure to environmental toxins. And even things like pornography addiction are negatively impacting men's testosterone levels. And all these things are becoming a huge problem in our society because it's stripping men of what makes men men. So if you want to join my community that's focused on helping men reverse this downward trend and educating them on how to increase their testosterone naturally, go ahead and subscribe. And let me know what you thought about this video in the comments below. I always love engaging with you guys down there, and it helps me ensure that I'm providing the kind of content that you want to see by hearing from you directly. If you made it to the end, I really appreciate the support, and I hope you got a ton out of this video as well. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.